First contact gone wrong. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth expeditionary vessel Curiosity knew she'd made a mistake the moment her ship dropped out of experimental fold space. Instead of emerging in empty space near Proxima Centauri as planned, they found themselves in the middle of what appeared to be a massive trading hub. Hundreds of alien vessels of various sizes and configurations hung in space around them, their running lights creating a cosmic light show that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so terrifying. Status report, she barked, maintaining her composure despite the shock. Her bridge crew, handpicked for this first human faster-than-light mission, responded with professional efficiency. Multiple artificial structures detected, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the sensor station. Energy signatures unlike anything we've ever seen. At least 30 different ship configurations, suggesting multiple species or civilizations. And they've all stopped moving, Commander Jackson added from Tactical. Every single ship out there is just watching us. Sarah understood why. The Curiosity wasn't particularly large by their standards, about the size of an old Earth aircraft carrier, but its design was completely unlike anything in view. Where the alien ships were all smooth curves and organic shapes, the Curiosity was all hard angles and functional design, its hull studded with radiators, sensor arrays, and the massive rings of its experimental fold space drive. Communications, she asked, knowing the answer before it came. Multiple incoming signals, Captain. Communications Officer Paddle responded, her fingers dancing over her holographic interface. Our AI is attempting to decrypt them, but wait, one's coming through clear now. A holographic window materialized in the center of the bridge, showing what appeared to be a creature that resembled a cross between an Earth octopus and a coral reef. Its translucent tissues pulsed with patterns of bioluminescence that the ship's AI was attempting to translate into meaningful communication. Unknown vessel, the translation appeared as text beneath the alien's image. You have entered restricted space during a sensitive trade negotiation. Your presence here is in violation of multiple Galactic Compact protocols. Identify yourself immediately. Sarah took a deep breath. First contact. Humanity's first interaction with alien life, and they'd managed to blunder right into the middle of what seemed to be the equivalent of an interstellar trade summit. Perfect. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth expeditionary vessel Curiosity, she responded, standing tall. We apologize for our unexpected arrival. We are on our first faster-than-light test flight and appeared here due to a navigation error. We mean no harm and will withdraw immediately if our presence is disruptive. There was a long pause, during which the aliens' bioluminescent patterns became increasingly agitated. Finally, the response came. Earth, you are humans. That's correct, Sarah confirmed, noting how the patterns of light across the alien's body had shifted from blues to reds. That couldn't be good. Impossible, the alien responded. Humans are a pre-FTL species under observation. Your presence here is more than a violation. It is an impossibility. Unless the alien's patterns shifted again, this time to something almost strobing. You have developed independent fold space technology. Before Sarah could respond, another holographic window appeared, showing a different alien. This one appearing more crystalline than organic. Its voice came through as harmonics that the AI translated into text. The humans were not supposed to achieve fold space capability for another 3 centuries at minimum. Their presence here threatens the entire established timeline of technological development. A third window appeared, then a fourth. Soon the bridge was filled with the holographic faces of various alien representatives, all speaking over each other in what was rapidly becoming a diplomatic incident of galactic proportions. Captain, Commander Jackson said quietly, we're being scanned. Multiple ships are probing our fold space drive. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The fold space drive was humanity's greatest achievement, developed through a combination of quantum mechanics breakthroughs and what some had called insane engineering risks. It wasn't perfect, hence their navigational error, but it worked. and apparently, they weren't supposed to have it yet. "Shields up," she ordered. "But do not, I repeat, do not, power up any weapon systems. Let's not make this worse than it already is." "Too late for that, Captain," Rodriguez said, pointing to his displays. The alien ships were moving now, forming what was unmistakably a containment pattern around the Curiosity. "I think we just started an interstellar incident." Sarah looked at the growing number of alien faces on her bridge, all demanding explanations, all expressing impossible levels of concern over the simple presence of a human ship. And she realized that humanity's first step into the galactic community had just become considerably more complicated than anyone had anticipated. "Well," she said, more to herself than her crew, "at least we proved the drive works." She straightened her uniform and prepared to face what would undoubtedly be the most important diplomatic conversation in human history. "Mr. Patel, open a channel to all vessels. If we're going to do this, let's do it right." The story of humanity's accidental debut on the galactic stage was about to begin, and Sarah Chen had a feeling it wasn't going to go anything like the first contact scenarios they'd trained for back on Earth. The diplomatic dance. The next 12 hours aboard the Curiosity were a crash course in interstellar diplomacy. Captain Chen's bridge had been transformed into an impromptu conference room, with holographic representatives from no fewer than 7 major galactic powers, all demanding explanations, making threats, or attempting to curry favor with the unexpected humans. "Let me be absolutely clear," Sarah said, addressing the assembled aliens for what felt like the 100th time. "Earth developed this technology independently. We had no outside assistance, no recovered alien artifacts, and no prior contact with any spacefaring civilizations." "Impossible," declared the crystalline being who had identified itself as Premier Vanak of the Siltheri Consensus. Its faceted surface caught the light from the holographic projectors, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the bridge. "Our models indicate human civilization should not achieve fold space capability for at least 300 standard cycles." "Your models were wrong," Commander Jackson interjected, earning a sharp look from Sarah. He wasn't wrong, but diplomacy required a softer touch. "What my tactical officer means," Sarah smoothed over, "is that perhaps human technological development followed a different path than anticipated. Our approach to fold space technology is unconventional." That was an understatement. The Curiosity's drive system had been developed through what the project team had called aggressive innovation, essentially throwing out conventional physics assumptions and trying things that theoretically shouldn't work, until something did. The coral-like alien from their first contact, now identified as Trade Administrator Sixflux, pulsed with skeptical colors. "Show us your drive specifications. Prove your claim of independent development." "I'm afraid that's not possible," Sarah replied firmly. "Our drive technology is classified. We're willing to discuss general principles, but the specific implementation details remain Earth property." This caused another outbreak of agitated discussion among the alien representatives. Sarah used the moment to glance at her tactical display. The Curiosity remained surrounded by alien vessels, though they'd at least stopped actively scanning the ship's drive system. "Captain," Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered, "I've been analyzing their ship's energy signatures. Their fold space technology operates on completely different principles than ours. They're using some kind of unified field manipulation, while we're basically punching holes in space-time." Sarah nodded slightly. That explained some of their reaction. Humanity hadn't just developed FTL travel ahead of schedule. They'd done it in a way that was completely outside the established technological progression. Perhaps, a new voice cut through the chaos. "We are approaching this from the wrong direction." The new speaker was a holographic representation of what appeared to be a cloud of floating lights, which the AI translated as Ambassador Luminera of the Collective. Unlike the others, their tone seemed more curious than alarmed. "The humans have demonstrated remarkable technological innovation," Luminera continued. "Rather than seeing this as a threat to the established order, we might consider the opportunities it presents. Opportunities. Vanak's crystalline form flickered with what Sarah was learning to recognize as agitation. They are savages who have somehow stumbled upon technology they cannot possibly understand. Their presence here threatens millennia of careful technological progression planning. And yet, Luminara countered, their lights shifting in what might have been amusement. Here they are, having achieved what your model said was impossible. Perhaps it is not the humans who lack understanding, but us who lack imagination. Sarah seized on this diplomatic opening. Ambassador Luminara is correct. Earth doesn't wish to disrupt your established order. We're eager to learn from your civilizations and share what we've learned in return. Surely there's room in the galaxy for alternative approaches. The bridge fell silent as the various representatives considered this. Sarah could practically see the political calculations happening behind their various alien expressions. A new spacefaring race with unique technology was as much an opportunity as a threat, and they all knew it. The collective would be interested in opening diplomatic relations with Earth, Luminara said finally, under certain conditions, of course. As with the Siltheri, Vanak added quickly, not to be outdone, provided appropriate safeguards are established. One by one, the other representatives began making similar statements, each trying to position themselves advantageously with respect to the unexpected humans. Sarah caught Commander Jackson's eye and saw him suppressing a smile. They'd gone from being an imminent threat to a sought-after diplomatic prize in less than a day. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. As the aliens began arguing among themselves about the proper protocols for integrating an emergent civilization into the galactic community, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's real test was still to come. "Lieutenant Rodriguez," she said quietly, "begin compiling everything we've learned about their technology and political structure. I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage we can get." The dance had begun, and humanity's first steps onto the galactic stage would need to be very carefully chosen indeed. Hidden strengths. 2 weeks into what was quickly becoming an interstellar diplomatic crisis, Captain Chen found herself missing the relative simplicity of their original mission parameters. The Curiosity's successful fold space jump had evolved into something far more complex than a simple test flight. The ship now orbited a neutral space station that looked like a massive crystalline snowflake, its faceted surfaces reflecting the light of 3 different suns. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations had gathered to debate the human question, as they'd taken to calling it. "They still don't understand," Commander Jackson said, reviewing the latest diplomatic communique in the captain's ready room. "They keep trying to fit us into their existing framework." Sarah nodded, nursing a cup of rapidly cooling coffee. "That's exactly our advantage. Pass me that technical analysis from Lieutenant Rodriguez." The report confirmed what they'd suspected from the beginning. The aliens' technology was more advanced than Earth's in almost every way, but it was also remarkably standardized. Every species followed the same technological progression, used the same fundamental principles, built upon the same foundation of scientific understanding. "Look at this," Sarah said, highlighting a section of the report. "Their fold space drives all operate on identical principles. Different scales, different applications, but the same basic technology. They're not just sharing technology. They're sharing thought patterns. While we're over here punching holes in space-time with duct tape and optimism," Jackson quipped. "Exactly." Sarah stood and walked to the viewport, watching alien ships move through their precise traffic patterns around the station. They've spent so long optimizing their approach that they've forgotten how to innovate. A gentle chime announced an incoming communication. "Captain," Lieutenant Patel's voice came through. "The Siltheri delegation is requesting another demonstration of our primitive shield technology." Sarah smiled. This had been happening more frequently. Various alien groups requesting demonstrations of human technology, always with an air of condescension that barely masked their growing concern. The Curiosity's shields weren't as powerful as theirs, but they operated on principles that the alien sensors couldn't fully analyze. Tell them we'll be happy to demonstrate once they share the results of their previous scans, she replied. Fair exchange of information, as agreed in the diplomatic protocols. The silence that followed told her all she needed to know. The aliens were becoming increasingly frustrated by their inability to categorize and understand human technology. Their sensors, calibrated for their standardized technology base, struggled to make sense of Earth's cobbled-together solutions. Captain, Rodriguez's voice cut in urgently, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the crack ships. I think they're trying to hack our computer systems. Instead of panic, Sarah felt a surge of anticipation. Let them try. Initiative Protocol Omega. Throughout the ship, systems that had appeared primitive and vulnerable by alien standards suddenly revealed their true nature. The Curiosity's computer architecture, unlike the unified systems used by the Galactic community, was a deliberately fragmented maze of independent networks, quantum processors, and good old-fashioned air-gap systems. On her display, Sarah watched as the Crack's probe encountered their defenses. The aliens' sophisticated hacking algorithms, designed to penetrate standardized galactic computer architectures, found themselves trapped in endless recursive loops and false data streams. They've withdrawn their probe, Rodriguez reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from his voice. Their systems are showing signs of confusion. I don't think they've ever encountered defensive algorithms like ours. Send them our standard diplomatic response about unauthorized system access, Sarah instructed, and make sure the other delegations know about the attempt. The political fallout was immediate. The Crack's delegation found themselves diplomatically isolated, their attempt at technological espionage backfiring spectacularly. More importantly, the incident served to demonstrate another unique aspect of human capabilities. Message from Ambassador Luminara, Patil announced. They're requesting a private meeting to discuss mutual technological exchange opportunities. Sarah exchanged knowing looks with Jackson. The collective had been the most open-minded about human capabilities from the beginning. Unlike the others, they seemed to grasp that humanity's different approach to technology might offer advantages they hadn't considered. Accept the meeting, Sarah decided. But first, I want a full analysis of their recent scanner activities. They've been the most cooperative, but that doesn't mean they're not playing their own angle. As she returned to her seat, Sarah reflected on how quickly humanity's position had evolved. They'd arrived as apparent primitives who'd achieved the impossible, transformed into a diplomatic curiosity, and were now emerging as a potential power player in galactic politics. The aliens had expected them to be primitives playing with technology they didn't understand. Instead, they were beginning to realize that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their ability to think differently, to find unconventional solutions, to turn apparent weaknesses into advantages. And they hadn't even revealed their biggest surprise yet. The tables turn. The meeting with Ambassador Luminara took place in what the station's architects probably thought was a reassuring approximation of human aesthetics. The room's attempts at Earth-like decor only highlighted how little the galactic community truly understood humans. Sarah sat alone at the conference table, having insisted that this particular meeting didn't require her full diplomatic team. Across from her, Luminara's cloud of lights shifted in patterns that the captain was learning to read as intrigue. Your species continues to surprise us, Luminara began. The Crack's delegation's unfortunate attempt to access your systems has revealed capabilities that weren't apparent in our initial assessments. We find it's often advantageous to be underestimated, Sarah replied with a slight smile. Though I hope this incident hasn't damaged the potential for peaceful cooperation between our civilizations. On the contrary, Luminara's lights pulsed in what Sarah had come to recognize as amusement. It has made many of us realize that we may have been approaching this situation from an outdated perspective. Your ship's defensive capabilities were impressive, but what truly interests us is how differently they operate from conventional systems. Sarah leaned forward slightly. Different isn't always better, Ambassador. Sometimes it's just different. And sometimes, Luminara countered, different is exactly what's needed. Captain, Are you aware of the current state of technological development in the galaxy? I assume you mean beyond the obvious fact that most species seem to follow the same developmental path. Precisely. Luminara's lights dimmed slightly. For the past 3 millennia, technological progress has been predictable, controlled. Each species joining the galactic community is integrated into the existing framework of knowledge and development. It's efficient, stable, and stagnant. Sarah finished. You understand. Luminara's pattern shifted to something more complex. The collective has long suspected that our standardized approach to technology and development might eventually become a liability. Your arrival has confirmed those fears. Before Sarah could respond, her communicator chimed with an urgent signal from the ship. Captain, Rodriguez's voice came through, tight with controlled tension. We have a situation developing. The Crack's fleet is moving into an attack formation. Sarah stood, but Luminara's next words froze her in place. They're not attacking, Captain. They're running. Explain, Sarah demanded, though she had a growing suspicion about what was happening. The Cracks didn't just attempt to hack your systems, Luminara said, their lights now pulsing rapidly. They were trying to prevent you from accessing their systems. They believed they detected attempts by your ship to infiltrate their network. Sarah kept her face carefully neutral. And did we? Captain, Rodriguez's voice came through again. The Crack ships are powering up their fold space drives. But there's something wrong with their power signatures. They're fluctuating. That's impossible, Luminara said, their lights flaring with sudden understanding. Unless you didn't just defend against their probe. Your systems were never primitive at all, were they? Sarah tapped her communicator. Rodriguez, initiate Protocol Prometheus. Transmit the shutdown codes to the Crack's fleet. Across the vastness of space, the mighty Crack's warships suddenly went dark, their engines powering down, their weapon systems deactivating. The pride of their military fleet hung helpless in space, disabled by commands from their own computers. How? Luminara asked, their lights now barely a flicker. From the moment we arrived, everyone assumed our technology was primitive because it was different, Sarah explained. No one considered that we might have developed in a completely different direction. While your civilizations focused on standardization and optimization, Earth focused on adaptation and infiltration. The demonstrations, the defensive capabilities, were exactly what you expected to see. Primitive but surprising technology from a young species. Meanwhile, our real systems were learning, adapting, infiltrating. Every scan of our ship, every attempted probe of our computers, every analysis of our technology gave us another way in. Your ship's computer systems are more advanced than anything in known space, Sarah confirmed. Not because they're more powerful, but because they're fundamentally different. Evolution never moves in a straight line, Ambassador. Neither does human innovation. Through the viewport, they could see other ships beginning to react to the Crack's fleet's predicament. Panic was spreading through the gathered armadas as the implications became clear. What are your demands? Luminara asked quietly. Sarah smiled. The same as they've always been. We want peaceful cooperation and mutual exchange of knowledge. Earth has no interest in domination or control. We just wanted to make sure everyone understood that we're not as primitive as you assumed. She stood and straightened her uniform. Now shall we discuss real diplomatic relations? As equals, the galaxy would never be the same, and humanity had just ensured their place among the stars would be on their own terms. A new dawn. The next few days aboard the neutral station felt like watching a galaxy-wide paradigm shift in real time. The revelation of humanity's true capabilities had sent shockwaves through the assembled alien delegations, transforming the diplomatic landscape overnight. Sarah stood at the grand viewport in the station's central chamber, watching as ships from various civilizations performed intricate maneuvers around each other. The Crack's fleet had been restored to full functionality after their leadership agreed to new diplomatic terms. More significantly, the incident had triggered a fundamental reassessment of how the galactic community approached technological development. The latest proposals have been approved, Commander Jackson reported, joining her at the viewport. 17 species have already signed on to the new technological exchange protocols. And the others? Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. Still debating, but the momentum is clear. The collective's support was the tipping point. Ambassador Luminara's lights flickered in agreement as they approached. Your demonstration has catalyzed changes that were long overdue, Captain. Though perhaps not in the way anyone expected. Sarah nodded. The past few days had seen the emergence of a new framework for galactic cooperation, one that emphasized innovation and diversity of approach over standardization. The human way of doing things had proven that different paths could lead to remarkable results. Message from Earth, Captain. Lieutenant Patel's voice came through. The Council has reviewed the diplomatic agreements. They're approved for implementation. Excellent timing, Sarah said, turning to face the assembled alien representatives who had gathered for what would become a historic moment. Shall we make it official? The ceremony that followed was surprisingly simple for something that would reshape galactic civilization. Representatives from each species stepped forward to formally acknowledge a new era of technological and cultural exchange. But this time, the agreements weren't about standardization. They were about celebrating and learning from their differences. There is one thing I still don't understand, Vanak said afterward, their crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. Your ship's demonstration of our vulnerability. Why reveal such an advantage? Because keeping it secret would have defeated the purpose, Sarah explained. Earth doesn't want to dominate or control. We want to learn and grow together. Sometimes the best way to build trust is to show that you could take advantage, but choose not to. A very human perspective, Luminara observed, their lights dancing thoughtfully, and perhaps exactly what our civilization needed. As the gathering dispersed, Sarah received another communication from her ship. Captain, Rodriguez reported, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from multiple ships in the fleet. They're experimenting. Several species appear to be attempting to replicate aspects of our fold space drive design. Sarah smiled. Already, the rigid boundaries of galactic technological development were breaking down. Species that had for millennia followed the same prescribed paths were beginning to explore new possibilities, combining their advanced understanding with human-inspired innovation. Captain, Jackson said quietly, the fold space drive is charged and calibrated. We can return to Earth whenever you're ready. Sarah took a final look at the gathered ships, now arranged in patterns that seemed less rigid, less standardized than before. Send word to Earth. Tell them the mission was a success, but not quite in the way we planned, and prepare the ship for return journey. We have a lot of work ahead of us. The Curiosity's accidental arrival had set in motion changes that would ripple through the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through overwhelming force or technological superiority, but by demonstrating that there was always another way to solve a problem. As her ship prepared to depart, Sarah reflected on how their simple test flight had transformed into something far more significant. They had come seeking to prove that humans could travel between the stars. Instead, they had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability. It was their ability to show others that the impossible was only impossible until someone tried something new. Helm, she ordered, taking her seat on the bridge, take us home. The Curiosity's fold space drive engaged, tearing a hole in reality in that uniquely human way, carrying with it the seeds of a new era in galactic civilization. Behind them, the assembled ships of 24 alien species watched them go, each already beginning to wonder what other assumptions about the impossible might be ready to be challenged. The galaxy would never be quite the same again. And that, Sarah thought as Earth's coordinates locked into place, was exactly the point.